D-Day's hidden secrets, the guns, bunkers, and craters still on Normandy beach today, cold open. It is June 2024. 80 years have passed, and yet the beach still remembers. Normandy's shoreline stretches for miles, golden sand meeting gray Atlantic water, tourists walking where soldiers drowned. But if you know where to look, if you understand what the earth is trying to tell you, the past emerges. Rusted steel protrudes from the sand. Concrete bunkers, cracked and weathered, stand like sentinels, and scattered across the landscape are craters. Deep, impossible craters, some the size of houses, each one a wound that never fully healed. These are not monuments. They are not placed there for tourists or nostalgia. They are the physical evidence of the bloodiest day in modern warfare. They are the scars of Operation Overlord, and they have something to tell us, something the history books only hint at. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about June 6, 1944. For decades, the official story was clear: a brilliant military operation, a necessary victory, a turning point. But the beach knows better. The bunkers know. The guns, the ones still buried in the sand, they know what really happened here. This is their story. This is what the earth is still revealing even now. Act 1. The world before. It is 1943, and Adolf Hitler is afraid. The Führer sits in his concrete bunker in Berlin, surrounded by generals and adjutants. The walls are thick, the air is recycled and stale, and yet he cannot escape the sound of bombs falling over Germany's cities. He cannot escape the knowledge that his enemies are closing in. From the east, the Soviets advance. From the south, the Allies have invaded Sicily, and somewhere across the Atlantic, in England, another invasion is being planned. Everyone knows it. The invasion that will come to the beaches of France. Hitler understands strategy. He understands that the moment the Allies establish a foothold on the European continent, the war is lost. Not immediately, not with a bang, but eventually, inexorably, the momentum will shift. The Americans have unlimited industrial capacity. The British have experience. The Soviets have vengeance. And Germany is bleeding. So Hitler makes a decision. In March of 1943, he issues Directive 40. It is a blueprint for paranoia. It is a plan to turn every beach in northern France into a fortress, a wall, an impenetrable barrier. This will be called the Atlantic Wall, and its architect is Erwin Rommel, the desert fox himself, recently recalled from Africa. Rommel arrives on the northern French coast in December 1943. He is 52 years old, still lean and alert, but worn by years of warfare. He travels by car along the beaches, studying the geography with the precision of a man who understands that lives will depend on his decisions. He sees the cliffs at Pointe du Hoc, he studies the wide beaches of Normandy, he examines the harbors, and he reaches a grim conclusion. If the Allies land here, and his defenses are not perfect, they will win. So Rommel becomes obsessed with obstacles, obsessed with mines, obsessed with guns positioned at exact angles to create overlapping fields of fire. By May of 1944, his engineers have constructed fortifications along the coast that represent an extraordinary engineering achievement. Millions of tons of concrete, thousands of bunkers, a network of underground tunnels connecting defensive positions, anti-tank walls, anti-boat obstacles, metal stakes driven into the sand, each one capable of ripping open a landing craft. The Atlantic Wall is a monument to paranoia and fear. It is also, in many ways, a monument to a man's attempt to defy destiny. But Rommel has a problem, and this problem will prove fatal to his defenses. The beaches are too long, the resources are too limited, and the German command structure is broken. Field Marshal von Rundstedt, the supreme commander in France, disagrees with Rommel about the best strategy for defense. Rundstedt believes the Allies will land at Pas-de-Calais, the narrowest point of the English Channel, where it is easiest to cross. Rommel knows the Allies will come to Normandy. The two men argue. The argument goes up the chain of command. And in those arguments, precious months are wasted. By June of 1944, the Atlantic Wall is formidable but incomplete. The guns are in place, the bunkers are constructed, the mines number in the millions, but there are still gaps, still weaknesses, still places where luck and courage might overwhelm firepower and position. The Germans do not know that their enemies have been planning for 2 years. They do not know that the Allies have built entire artificial harbors in England. They do not know about the specialized vehicles designed to breach their obstacles, the tanks that can swim, the engineers who can cut through wire with their bare hands if necessary. Most critically, they do not know about Ultra. They do not know that British intelligence has broken the German Enigma code and can read, almost in real time, the encrypted military communications of the Reich. The Allies know what the Germans are building. They know where the weaknesses are, and they know when the invasion will be most likely to succeed. But even with all this knowledge, all this preparation, all this advantage, the commanders in England know that this will be a butchery. They know that thousands of men will die on those beaches. And still, they proceed. Because they also know this: if they do not come now, if they do not bleed on the sands of Normandy, then Germany will bleed all of Europe for 1,000 years. Act 2. The Storm. It is June 5th, 1944, and the weather is terrible. Storm clouds gather over the English Channel. The seas are rough. Winds howl across the south coast of England, where nearly 2 million soldiers wait in camps, in ships, in staging areas. They are Americans, Canadians, British, Poles, Free French, and men from a dozen other nations. They have been told this is the day. Then they are told to wait. The tides are wrong, the moon is wrong, the weather is wrong. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Supreme Commander, sits in his tent on the eve of the invasion. He is a man accustomed to enormous responsibility, but tonight the weight is almost visible on his shoulders. He has written a letter to be released if the invasion fails. It reads, "Our landings in the Cherbourg-St. Tuptua area have failed to gain a satisfactory foothold, and I have withdrawn the troops. If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone." He has signed it, he has sealed it, he has handed it to an aide, and he has walked away from it because he must now believe in success, even as he plans for catastrophe. At 9:45 p.m. on June 5th, the meteorologists give their assessment. There is a brief window, just hours, just 36 hours, when conditions will be marginally acceptable. Eisenhower makes the decision that will change the world. Okay, we'll go. Within minutes, the machinery of invasion lurches into motion. Ships begin to move, engines roar, men pray, some vomit from seasickness, some vomit from fear. The largest fleet ever assembled, over 5,000 ships and landing craft, begins to cross the English Channel in the darkness. Among them is Lieutenant Don Whitehead of the U.S. Navy, commanding a small patrol craft. As his vessel cuts through the black water, he watches the horizon. He knows that somewhere ahead, in bunkers built into the cliffs, German soldiers are manning their guns. They are probably sleeping. They are probably unaware that their enemy is already in the water, already approaching, already beginning the largest amphibious operation in the history of warfare. At midnight, the bombers come. The sky is split open by the sound of thousands of aircraft engines. The Luftwaffe is nearly absent. Fuel and pilots are impossibly scarce. The American Air Force, by contrast, has dominance, complete dominance. The bombers drop their loads on the German positions, trying to destroy the obstacles, the bunkers, the guns. Some bombs fall short, killing French civilians in their homes. Some bombs fall wide, hitting empty fields. But many strike their targets. Lieutenant Whitehead hears the explosions. He sees the flashes of light, and he understands that in those moments, as the bombs rain down, the Germans are finally fully aware that the invasion has come. There is no more surprise. There is no more waiting. Now there is only war, in its most primal and terrible form. The landing craft begin to approach the beaches at 6:30 hours. The sun is just rising. The tide is coming in. The men in the boats can hear the sound of machine gun fire. They can see tracer bullets cutting through the air in long, deadly arcs. They can hear the impact of bullets striking the metal sides of their vessels, and they understand with absolute certainty that they are about to assault one of the most heavily defended positions on Earth. The first wave touches down on Omaha Beach at 6:36 a.m. What happens in the next few minutes will become legendary and infamous, a nightmare of fire and blood and incompetence and courage all mixed together in the pre-dawn light. The landing craft doors open. The soldiers pour out into water that is sometimes up to their chests. The current is strong. The weight of their equipment pulls them down. They are exhausted before they have even begun to fight. And then the guns open up. The guns, These are the hidden secrets that still lie beneath the sands of Normandy today. They are not random. They are not haphazard. They are the result of months of careful calculation by German engineers. The MG-42 machine guns are mounted in concrete bunkers positioned to create overlapping fields of fire. A soldier cannot reach the seawall without crossing at least two of these fields. Most soldiers do not make it halfway. Second Lieutenant Robert Salomon, commanding a platoon of the 16th Infantry Regiment, makes it to the waterline before he is hit. He sees men around him cut down by machine gun fire. He sees others simply disappear beneath the waves, weighted down by their sodden equipment. He sees Lieutenant Edward Tidrick, a chaplain, walking through the carnage saying prayers, and a sniper's bullet finds him. The chaplain falls into the water. No one can reach him. He disappears. Within the first 20 minutes, nearly half the men on Omaha Beach are casualties, dead, wounded, missing. The beach is covered with bodies, the water is red, the sand is littered with equipment, weapons, supplies, all of it abandoned by men who are dying. And yet they keep coming. Wave after wave, boat after boat. The German guns do not stop. The ammunition does not run out. Rommel's engineers have ensured that every bunker has abundant supplies, that every gun has overlapping fields of fire, that every position can be defended with minimal personnel. But there is a problem. The problem is that there are only so many guns, only so many bunkers, and there are tens of thousands of soldiers arriving on the beaches. By 9:30 hours, American soldiers have breached the seawall. They have found the gaps, they have climbed the bluffs, and slowly, incrementally, they have begun to overwhelm the German defenses. Not because the German guns are not effective, they are devastatingly effective, but because there are simply not enough of them. Sergeant John Sloan of the 5th Ranger Battalion reaches Pointe du Hoc at midday. The cliff stands 100 feet high. The Germans have fortified it with bunkers, with barbed wire, with gun positions. Sloan and his men climb, they use ropes, they use grappling hooks, they use their bare hands, bullets tear through them. Grenades explode, and yet they keep climbing. They reach the top, they assault the bunker. Inside the bunker, German soldiers fight with the fanaticism of men who have nowhere to retreat. But they are outnumbered, they are overwhelmed. By early afternoon, the Ranger Battalion has taken Pointe du Hoc. They have captured the guns that were positioned there. The 155mm artillery pieces that German command feared more than any other weapon, because those guns could sink ships, could devastate the invasion fleet. But when they reach the gun positions, something is wrong. The guns are not there. The positions are empty. Weeks earlier, Rommel had moved the guns inland, fearing exactly this kind of commando raid. The Rangers have climbed 100 feet, have fought through prepared defenses, have suffered hundreds of casualties, all to capture empty gun positions. It is a bitter irony, and it reveals a truth that would not be fully understood until after the war. The German defenses were not as formidable as they appeared. The guns were not in the places the Allies expected them to be. The command structure was broken. Rommel, who understood the invasion better than any other German officer, was not even in France on June 6th. He was in Germany, attending his wife's birthday party. By the time he reaches France, the battle has already been decided. By nightfall on June 6th, the Allies have suffered nearly 10,000 casualties. Over 4,000 are dead, but they have established a beachhead. They have broken through the Atlantic Wall. And the fortress that Rommel built, the fortress that Hitler believed was impenetrable, has fallen. The German soldiers who survived the first day are exhausted and demoralized. Some have fought for 12 hours without rest, without food, without water. Their ammunition is running low. Their command structure is in chaos. And worst of all, they understand that more men will keep coming. The invasion will not be stopped. It has only just begun. Act 3. The Reckoning. It is June 7th, 1944, and the survivors are still dying. The beaches of Normandy are now fully captured, but the battle is far from over. Inland, German reinforcements are beginning to arrive. The bocage, the dense hedgerow country of Normandy, is proving to be far more difficult to fight through than anyone anticipated. The Germans are regrouping, they are counterattacking, and in the next weeks and months, tens of thousands more men will die. But something has changed. The invasion has succeeded. The beachhead will hold. And from this moment forward, the momentum is with the Allies. Germany is now fighting on two fronts. The war is lost. It will take another year, but the outcome is no longer in doubt. For the men on the beaches, however, there is no sense of victory. There is only the terrible knowledge that more fighting awaits, more death, more blood. The men who survived the first day begin to understand that they have done something extraordinary. They have assaulted and taken one of the most heavily defended positions on Earth, but they have done it at a cost that will mark them forever. Private Harold Bixby of the 1st Infantry Division sits in a shell crater near Omaha Beach on the evening of June 6th. Around him are the remnants of his company. Many of the men he trained with, fought with, lived with for months, are dead. Some are still missing, their bodies either washed out to sea or buried beneath the sand. He has not slept, he has not eaten, he has not stopped shaking since dawn, and he knows that tomorrow he will do it all again. In a German bunker 2 miles inland, Major Franz Graber sits in darkness, listening to the sound of artillery fire. His position is surrounded. His ammunition is running low. His men are asking him when they will counterattack, when they will drive the Americans back into the sea. He tells them soon. He knows it is a lie. He knows that they will be captured or killed within days. And he understands, with the clarity that comes only in moments of absolute despair, that his country has lost. The Atlantic Wall, which seemed so formidable weeks earlier, is now seen for what it really was. Impressive on paper, intimidating in appearance, but fundamentally flawed in conception and execution. The guns were magnificent. The bunkers were well built. The minefields were extensive. But they could not account for the sheer numbers of men willing to die to overcome them. They could not account for unlimited ammunition, unlimited air support, unlimited supplies. They could not account for the fact that every casualty the Allies suffered could be replaced, while every German casualty was permanent, irreplaceable. By June 12th, over 300,000 men have landed in Normandy. By June 19th, that number has grown to over 600,000. The Germans have no reinforcements. They have no air cover. They have only the ground beneath their feet and the courage of men who are already defeated. The battle for Normandy will continue for over a month. The town of Caen will be nearly destroyed. The bocage will be fought over yard by yard, hedge by hedge. Tens of thousands more will die. But the outcome is already decided. On August 25th, 1944, the Allies liberate Paris. On September 3rd, Brussels falls. By December, the Germans will attempt one last massive counteroffensive in the Ardennes, but it will fail. And by May of 1945, Germany will surrender. The invasion has succeeded. The world has been liberated from Nazi tyranny, and the beaches of Normandy have become sacred ground, the site of sacrifice and heroism and tragedy. But what is remarkable, what is haunting, is that the physical evidence remains. 80 years later, the bunkers still stand. The guns, still buried in the sand, can be found. The craters left by bombs and artillery still mark the landscape. And tourists who walk on those beaches, who swim in that water, are walking on ground that is still stained with blood, still scarred by war, still crying out to tell its story. Epilogue. Today on the beaches of Normandy, if you know where to look, you can still find evidence of that terrible day. Near Le Brave, a sculpture monument shows 3 figures emerging from the sea. Tourists pose for photographs in front of it, unaware that they are standing on ground where men drowned 80 years ago. Walk 100 yards to the left, and you will find a German bunker still intact. The gun slits are still visible. You can still see the impact of shells on its concrete walls. Inside, the air is cold and stale and timeless. Your eyes slowly adjust to the darkness, and you understand, for just a moment, what it meant to be trapped in such a place, waiting for enemies you could not see, knowing that your death was only a matter of time. In the cliff face at Pointe du Hoc, you can still see the climbing ropes that were left behind, still see the marks of grappling hooks driven into stone. The Rangers climbed past those marks. Many of them did not come back down alive. In the fields inland from Utah Beach, artillery craters still scar the landscape. Some are filled with water, creating small ponds. In spring, wildflowers grow around their edges. But the craters themselves are monuments to destruction, to the awesome power of modern warfare, to the raw force that it took to break the Atlantic Wall. And in the sand, still being discovered by archaeologists and historians and fishermen, are the guns themselves. The bunkers may be above ground, but the weapons are still below the surface, still hidden, still waiting to tell their stories to anyone who cares to listen. What is most remarkable about Normandy is not what has changed. It is what has remained the same. The Germans who built the Atlantic Wall built it for permanence. They built it believing that it would stand forever, that it would hold back the tide of invasion for decades, that it would protect the Reich. In a sense, they were right. The bunkers are still there. The guns are still there. They did not protect Nazi Germany, but they have preserved themselves, like insects in amber, like messages in bottles from a dying civilization. And what they are trying to tell us, those bunkers, those guns, those craters, is this: that warfare is not glorious. It is not heroic in the way that history books suggest. It is the grinding, terrible collision of industrial power and human will. It is the transformation of landscapes and lives. It is death on an industrial scale, death so total and encompassing that the earth itself is scarred. But there is something else they tell us. Hidden beneath the tourism and the monuments and the sanitized historical narratives is a truth that the Normandy beaches will not let us forget. That ordinary men, faced with extraordinary circumstances, found within themselves the courage to overcome seemingly impossible odds. That they did this not for glory or honor, but because they understood, on some fundamental level, that something worth dying for was at stake. The Atlantic Wall is still there. The bunkers are still there. The craters are still there. And they are still asking us, will you remember? Will you understand? Will you learn? The beaches have their answer. The beaches have always had their answer, and it is waiting there still, in the sand and stone and concrete, for anyone willing to listen.